every conversation I've had this year with folks in the industry is the input device is still broken.
Here's what I would say is that not every solution needs to be an AI solution.
You have to do so much task and data mining in order to actually apply AI to this, that alone, on top of the change management, is a hard part. It's not even the actual application of AI.
The front end of value when you invest in AI, even personally, is like tremendous upside. And then when you try and create repeat out of that, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't create the folder structure. I didn't use the MD files in the right way. So there is like it's, I don't know, maybe the law of diminishing returns. He did his own little walk up. He
right.
like hit the button and then backed up so he could walk.
Did you hear AC/DC when I walked up? Did you? No, that didn't work. Oh, dang it. All right, I'm sorry.
You gotta fire your assistant now.
I hate the assistant's problem, that's for sure. She does great.
All right, so Tyler, any questions on the stories before we hop in? No, don't.
Any questions on?
You're gonna. I think you're gonna come out hot on AJ, and
we already talked about it this morning. I already said, all right, listen, how hard can I go here on Procore stuff if you let me? I was like, just know it's not a personal attack.
Yeah.
all right.
He's good. He said, nothing is off limits.
I mean, he's even wearing his Procore hoodie, so like, let's get after this. But maybe, hey, all right. So before we get into it, guys, one, thanks for joining. But let's just do like around the table. Like, when was the first time a drone showed up on one of your jobs? Like, I'm thinking back to, I don't know. I think the first one was like 2015, 2014 ish. AJ, when was your first drone experience?
Yeah, we were talking about it in, I want to say it was 2017, 2018. It was a dam project.
Okay.
And it was doing earthwork, right? Capturing the amount of earthwork that had been completed based on flights.
Got it. Victor?
Yeah, mine was 2018 as well. It was a data center job, so there's no way you're going to walk around and take photos of that, so we had to use the drone to go
Well, they
do that.
probably still asked you, and you were like, no, there's a better way.
Yeah. Also true.
Well, so we got a drone at the family business to use just to fly around and take videos of jobs that we had detailed. And so we bought one of the early DJI drones, and I actually crashed that drone into the culinary arts facility down in Auburn. So that's fun. Almost hit somebody in the head. That was not good. So yeah, that was before I had my license.
Like, that's the point of them. They're used to work with them. But sorry, keep going.
Yeah. No, but I'm done. I almost hurt somebody on a job site from my own stupidity. It was just too windy to fly it, and it ran into the. Yeah, I'm thankful for hard hats. Let me just put it that way.
All right, I'm gonna read through the stories that we're gonna go through today, and then we'll kind of dig into the first one. So we've got Procore agreed to buy DroneDeploy. New York became the first state in America to freeze data center construction. We'll talk about the labor shortage and how there's kind of two different perspectives on that data claim. We've got the two kind of most respected market trackers looking at the exact same month. One said construction started to collapse 20%, while the other called an all-time record. So we get to call out some of the people we like making fun of. This is reviewed as noted. We've got Tyler Campbell back again. AJ Waters, thanks for joining us. And now we've got a new guest, Victor, who's been on the podcast before. So let's dig into this first one. Procore buys the eyes, is maybe the subtitle of this. $845 million for DroneDeploy. We're going to ignore the fact that AJ is wearing a Procore hoodie right now and the fact that he works there, just for a second. So, Victor, you look at maybe just deals generally kind of through a capital allocation lens. I think you kind of naturally do that. Some of that's your background. What did Procore actually buy? Like, what's your kind of initial perspective here?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think There's two ways to look at it. Number one is obviously the flashy number, which I'm sure most people will pay attention to, right? Especially on the back of DataGrid early this year. There's a lot of noise, a lot of acquisitions. It's been a busy 2026, I think, for a lot of the big three. So what do they buy? I think number one, I think they're trying to buy the pole position again. I think historically, if you look at the last phase of construction management software, Procore was the de facto one. Autodesk has been, chomping at their heels for quite a bit, and I think they're reaching parity from a product perspective. So what are they buying? They're buying net new capabilities, and that's kind of the focus of 26. Obviously, with DataGrid, that does work with agents. This one with DroneDeploy, you're now looking at drones in the sky. That's a new modality for work with agents, and then how does that influence how data gets entered into Procore? That's interesting. And then they talk about robotics. I think there's two angles there as well. There's the robotics of actual deployment, and then eventually there's going to be the training data for robotics. I think that is actually going to be more valuable over time. And we see this in other industries where companies like Scale AI and Procore and others that are doing training data for the large LLM companies is going to be a massively huge business. And so Procore can pull this off on top of the data that they already have in-house. I think they're buying capability again, like I said, be in the pole position for the best construction tech company.
Yeah, so Bragan from Last Week in Contact, I think, had a really good kind of write-up early today about this. And one of the things he pointed out was like Procore, maybe this was in the transcript of the announcement, but they don't want to be kind of the system of record. They want to be a system of action, right? And so this is kind of buying them potentially a layer that allows them to be more of a management system for, like you said, kind of that hardware component, which is interesting. Tyler, you tell kind of contractors the value of just data portability, right? Like that's a big part of your messaging.
Yeah.
And, in theory, kind of Procore is buying more of that real estate. What does kind of data portability even mean anymore? Is the escape hatch kind of going away at this point?
What do you mean by data portability? I don't know if I understand the question, Stephen.
Well, I think if you look at what Procore already interacts with,
Yeah.
if you're working with contractors and the message is own your data so that you can have enough autonomy and to drive your own systems, if all of your systems get purchased by Procore that you interact with, how do you own your own data?
I think that's the biggest question that everybody's trying to answer right now. So I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the Construction Dive article, which was clearly bought. Sorry, I'm throwing pot shots just for fun. So I'm looking at the Construction Dive article, and I'm wondering why it was worth $845 million in cash. Truly. Other than them buying the data itself.
Yeah.
What is valuable there? Because having heard stories of other companies going out and building a version of this in 4 weeks, why is it worth $145 million if there was not a massive set of data behind it that they were purchasing? So I look at that as DroneDeploy probably just sold a lot of data on a lot of different job sites to Procore. That's my read.
I got a question.
Rebuttal.
For you. Are you more so concerned that the number is high, or that it was cash, or like what's the hang up?
I think it's an indication of that data is being sold behind the curtain without people realizing it. I think that's the thing, is like the high number is an indication of some other thing that's going on, because I'm sorry, that app is not. You could rebuild an app like that for not $845 million. So branding might be a part of that too, for sure. Like, I'll give you that. But Procore is also a pretty big brand. So I feel like if they built their own version of this and deployed it, that'd be a much cheaper route than going out and acquiring a company like this.
I spent a little time in R&D, and the little time I did, we had some initiatives around robotics, and I gained a respect for how difficult it is to build any kind of what would be considered kind of mental capability for hardware, right? And so I think what DroneDeploy does have is some IP around that orchestration of robotics, which is very interesting. And what enables that is mounds and mounds of project data, right? Like topography data and how it responds. So I do think data is part of it, and I don't deny that maybe customer data is part of that. But I do think it's also maybe even training data that wouldn't necessarily be valuable outside of a robotics kind of context.
Yeah.
But we can't talk around AJ about something Procore related too much more. From what you've heard as maybe the insider, what's maybe the thing you're supposed to say, and then what you actually think?
Fair.
That's a good question too. So something can be said of the hardware to software interface being, to Stephen's point, super difficult but super ideal, right? Look at the Apple ecosystem. And when you own both the software and the hardware interface, it's way better than something somebody built in their basement in 4 weeks, right? So there is something to be said about that. Plus, Tyler, to your point, the data that comes with it and the customer base that comes with it, right? I think the two things that excited me the most is number one, that every conversation I've had this year with folks in the industry is the input device is still broken, right? We're capturing data in a digital way, but we still have a broken input device. And in some cases, it's more time consuming to capture the data digitally than it was to write it down on a piece of paper when that was our capture method, right? And so buying DroneDeploy is a new input method that is more automated. And that's a step in the right direction when that's the conversation that I'm hearing most often. The second thing is back to the robotics point, right? Like if we talk about some of the things that will really change the wear and tear and the mental load and everything that happens to the individual on a job site, robotics is one of the places that we still need to figure out how to unlock. And so having that now in-house versus relying on someone else is a whole new avenue to pursue. So that's probably what we're supposed to say. If I were to just to like remove the corporate speak and offer my own opinion, there's a lot to be said about Tyler's comment that somebody can go build something in a couple of weeks and release it faster. That was the whole SaaS apocalypse, right? Like that's what everybody was talking about. That doesn't bring context. Yeah, I can go build an app in my basement in 4 weeks, but if I've never set foot on a job site, I still have no context. AI is a tool, just like an arc welder is a tool. If you hand me an arc welder, I can't do jack with it, right? Whereas a welder could be super effective. If you hand AI to a bunch of folks in a basement, what can they do with it that the folks with the boots don't understand, right? And so the context of DroneDeploy being on site from the beginning is super valuable.
I mean, your answer was more reasonable and better than I wanted it to be.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm slightly irritated, I'm not gonna lie.
We were all waiting to hop on you after that, but you defended it.
So, okay, no, I have another question here. Okay, so what you're saying is Procore getting into the robotics business? So, are we going to start seeing Procore deployed hardware out there? Tell us everything. So, what did you hear at the executive meeting, AJ?
I have no idea. I heard what you heard on the earnings call because I'm in week 4, man. Like I haven't been here that long, so I heard what you heard on the earnings call, and
I heard you were hanging out on Tui's yacht, is what I heard.
Whatever.
That's what I heard. So yeah.
Rumors.
Yeah, you're gonna get me in trouble right out of the gate. I haven't even gotten to meet Tui yet. Gee whiz. Now I won't. Thanks.
Well, AJ,
you're friends with me, man. That was obvious. You wouldn't be able to beat him. So
I think there's
clearly he's got poor judgment and friends.
There's another line of conversation here, which is 2026 has been like a really big spend year for
yeah.
acquisitions. What's driving that? I would have anticipated the opposite, as people kind of let everything settle a little bit in terms of what is capable from a vibe coding standpoint, seeing what we can do internally. But it seems like these big firms have kind of settled on like, no, let's not do R&D. We're all in on like M&A. Like, Victor, what is that?
I think if you wait, it's too late. I think that the general idea of waiting until something emerges is like what feels safe, but I tend to think that that's too late in this industry, whereby things are moving way too quickly, especially on the technology front. I think that's part one. Earlier, I mentioned, people are buying capabilities, right? And I think the data piece should not be understated for how much data you need and then how valuable that data is. If you look at some of the robotics companies that have come out with fundraising earlier this year, they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars as their first like seed or Series A round, right? Which implies a valuation of much, much, much higher. So I think the 845 number is actually not that crazy when you think about it from that way, from a venture perspective. So I think there's a lot of possibilities that's going to be unlocked by new data sets that are being captured, and then the application of that. And so again, in Procore's case specifically, which we could talk about other companies as well, but in Procore's case specifically, you look at the data grid acquisition, that worked for a certain subsect of customer. AJ mentioned cross-selling between different customer bases. I think that's a huge, huge piece of why someone would buy M&A or go buy a company. The other thing too is like when a lot of companies do M&A, they really think about it as either you're buying talent, you're buying revenue, or you're buying capability. And so if you're doing one of those three, you got to figure out which one you care most about. And clearly some of these companies are buying revenue, some of them are buying talent, and some of them are buying capability.
And in some cases, you can get all three.
And some you can't.
So let me, before we move on to the next one, Tyler, put yourself in, let's do a little scenario plan. Tyler Campbell Construction does about $300 million a year in GC.
Dang, I'm getting a new house.
Mainly in Atlanta. And you're looking at this news. You are a Procore buyer, but you're also understanding that there's incredible opportunity with the better leveraging of your own internal data. How would you approach maybe the next 6-12 months from a data strategy standpoint on this news?
I'm pissed off at the cost of Procore, and now I'm building it myself.
Really?
Yeah.
Say more, Tyler. Say more. Like what is it that you're...
I'm looking at my Procore bill every year, and I'm going, how much of this data am I putting into other people's hands? And can I use the data that I am putting over there, bring it back internally, and then also build an ontology layer that can read and understand my business as a whole more effectively than I could if it was just sitting over there in a Procore database. So I'm trying to roll up all of my information into as few buckets as possible, or all of my data into as few buckets as possible, and then put a map over that can read those data points with context around them so that I can thrive in the AI era.
Yeah, I like that.
I gotta follow up though. I don't know. Like, are you concerned about the price going up? Are you concerned that you don't feel like you're getting enough value of the price you're paying for? Are you like, what is it that's actually giving you the heartburn?
I'm losing opportunity. I think it's, and the price is one part of it. I think the price is a motivating factor behind it. It's not necessarily the overall reason why. It's the opportunity that I'm able to get by owning my data, just me, and all of my intellectual property, and having some security around that. Because I think more and more people are starting to think like that. So price is a motivating factor. It's not the only answer or the only reason why I'm switching. It's I get opportunity from switching and building off of my own ecosystem.
Is your data more secure though?
Ooh.
Or is it less secure because your own internal stacks aren't built to the same standards? Because you don't even understand what the standards are.
That's fair, but I mean, if I have the ability to go out and spend a couple $1 million on my own system versus on Procore, what could that get me?
AJ dropping bombs with the Socratic method. I like it. I mean, I do think though, like this has added some layers to Procore that didn't exist before, right? Which is, I
Yeah,
think we've
it does.
said it, which is, hey, UI is commoditized, data is important, and now this is like a third leg, which is, in some future reality, if robotics are actually able to perform more work on site, there's going to be needing this like orchestration layer. So if Procore can tie system of record to system of action and be like this management layer. Like that's an interesting equation. It doesn't take away your point though, because I do think there is a need for people to think outside that box to protect
It's
themselves.
and I'll say this. Point taken, AJ. Is very reasonable to go through that. Because yeah, I'm not going to have an entire security team sitting there monitoring that like Procore would. So definitely a consideration that needs to be taken into account. I would say from my lens and what I'm hearing in the industry right now and what
Can
I'm
I just challenge
seeing
you
a lot
though
of people
on
do
that one point,
is
Tyler, real quick though, like
no, you can't
because your
challenge me
data,
ever. I don't
like,
like it.
but this is actually challenging AJ. Like that data isn't really a honeypot. Who's gonna hack into a bunch of RFI data? Like, oh great, I got like here's a
Yeah.
change order that is like from
Why
a
don't we
project.
ask that big red box store that question? Because people got in
True.
through the contractor, not through them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see your point. Okay. Um, sorry, I
It's
interrupted
interesting
you. Tyler.
times.
Finish your thought.
It's interesting times right now is all I'm saying. And I think we all know that. It's more interesting than it's been in my whole career. Um, I feel like the past couple years have just caused people to really rethink how their overall systems are connected, how information is flowing internally. But they're seeing an opportunity to be able to build their business operating system. And so, I mean, can you build a business operating system and leverage Procore? Of course you can. You definitely can. So it doesn't mean that you need to go out and just like burn the ships and, never use Procore again or Autodesk or any of these other platforms that are out there. But in some circumstances, it can get you an advantage to be able to control how your data is configured and how it all interrelates to each other. Um, in some cases, again, that shouldn't be a blanket sweep for everybody to go out and just start canceling their subscriptions, because there lies some demons too that you are going to face. There's some dragons in that path as well. Having conversations this morning on how we're structuring ontologies within a knowledge graph scenario and how we can get AI to interact with those in a way that's actually consistent versus deviating. There's a lot of crap that is still unknown out there around AI and using it. So yeah, it's the people that are jumping the ship right now. They're feeling some pains too, but I also think that there's some advantages long term of thinking that way, because you get to control a lot more.
So let's go to the second story here. We've got New York being the first state to pause permits on data centers over 50 megawatts. There was roughly 12 gigawatts in the queue kind of at the time of Executive Order 62 that was signed in on July 14th. I think we're kind of trending in this direction. What were you going to say, Tyler?
Why couldn't it be Order 66? I mean, come on.
I was thinking the exact same
right?
thing. Execute Order 66. Yep.
All right, sponsor break. Lars, real quick. When was the last time you got a new set of drawings from an architect and they didn't cloud anything?
Well, the one that cost me a couple $100,000 was back, I think, in 2017. So, yeah, lesson learned there.
Yeah, so what I like about what Trick Tools is building is they're looking at tools to help kind of remove the mundane from the job site. And I same as you, every time there was a bulletin or an addendum, I would go back to the designers and ask them to at least highlight or give me a cover letter on the changes. And that was always like pulling like teeth. But Trunk Tools is now automating that. So you get a bulletin come in, it automatically highlights the changes. You don't have to do a thing.
Well, it's also hitting RFIs, right? It's also hitting submittals. And when we think about standardizing ops, right, and providing that, sort of resource to those field operators. What I see it as, it's sort of like this like mentor within the company that structures, standardizes, keeps it moving in the right direction, looks out for risk. And just this last week, I had a QC manager just pass along a submittal to an owner without doing a review because he was too busy, and it was wrong. And the classic owner statement is, did you even review this? Right? So this to me is carte blanche. We absolutely did. And think about getting that first pass before your field manager ever even actually has to do the first pass. Someone's doing it for them. So to me, it's about speed. It increases accuracy and helps standardize ops out in the field, right?
Yeah, and this is the kind of AI that we've talked about on the podcast, really appreciating, right? Which is looking at ways to elevate the craftsman at the heart of project delivery.
Give me time back so I can be out in the field managing risk, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
So, all right, if you're a little curious, check it out, trunktools.com/podcast. And if you mention Construction Conversations, you get a discount.
Discount. Demos are free, and and you guys get a discount. So let's go.
That's right.
So I think what's interesting, though, is that doesn't include data centers that are coming up with their own power solution, is how I read that. And so I think it increasingly is aligning us to this reality where owners are having to come up with their own power gen solutions, right? And the ones that do are just going to kind of bypass some of the pushback. AJ, you kind of came up through, you had some heavy civil in your background, you had some power work, maybe adjacent work. I guess, as you look at data center building in the next 2 years, you also have, as a part of this announcement, or maybe after it, there was some reference to kind of local labor, like prevailing wage type inclusions into negotiations into future data centers. So like they took away some work, but then they said essentially like in the future, as work gets going, it's going to be maybe more attractive to the local labor markets. Did the trades win? Like who won in this scenario?
It's hard to say. I think, in my opinion, the politicians won, and everybody else lost.
They're undefeated.
Right now, like at this particular juncture.
Yeah.
I think a lot is being blown out of proportion on the scope of these data centers and what they pull from. Yes, the grid needs upgraded. Don't get me wrong. Yes, they're big, and they take up a lot of land. But I think people underestimate how many jobs they create, number one. Like, there's actually a lot of people working inside that facility. It's not just a big empty box. They're high-paying jobs, by the way. Like, they boost the economy. And I think people underestimate, like, how much they utilize said data center in their own life. Like, they're truly putting handcuffs around much of the tech that they use every single day, and they don't even realize it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that we need to consider in all this. I do like that they included something about prevailing wage. Does that mean that the trades won? I don't know exactly, because that still means they're going to, like, data centers are going to pull even more labor from every other project. They already were, because they were paying more to begin with. Now you add even more markup to it, and they're going to yank even more labor from every other project in the area. But I think right now I don't see any winners at all, really, because it just slows the progress.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I
think there are winners. I think the winners are the other states. Like, if you're trying to build a data center in New York, and now you can go to Pennsylvania, why would you not? Like, you just, as an owner, you don't want to deal with the regulatory headache that comes with some of these things. And so if you can avoid it and still be close, like that's who really is going to win.
Stay out of Virginia, please. We have enough of that. We have so much.
Okay.
Steven's chickens are green, man. They're glowing. It's insane.
Flash.
Big flash.
Yeah,
Listen, this just This bumps me out, all right? This bumps me out because I was planning on putting my data center right in the middle of Central Park, all right? Like, I'm very frustrated right now.
Just
That's
a
just
nuke.
me, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, a small nuke site right next to where we go.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those things are true. I think there's so much demand for the labor. Essentially, the only, like, New York, whatever delay they think is going to happen, take that times 3, because getting people back into the state that have just been absorbed by other states, to your point, Victor, is going to be so challenging. All right, I think that the third little story here I think is interesting, right? Which is Suffolk is embedding AI engineers inside project teams. So we've talked about the application of AI in a couple different kind of environments. Tyler, you and I talked about it. But it's not like an innovation lab. It's not, outside. It's embedded in the workflow of their operations. So mission critical healthcare, higher ed, and their words, we're a construction company, not a software company. They're trying to, embed what they're building into the workflows that add value to their delivery systems. So Tyler, this one's to you.
Yeah.
You build AI systems for a living. So kind of calibrate this. How do you think this experiment will go for Suffolk project teams as maybe AI centric people get exposed to just the chaos of the project site? Do you think they'll bring calm and create kind of the process that they are intending to?
I mean, if they're using good product discipline, I think yes, they could create a lot of really valuable solutions out there by being present. I think a lot of times what happens is people build an AI solution and then they don't go out to the field, kind of like what AJ was talking about before, right? It's get out on the job site, experience it, and then you can empathize for who you're building with. What I'm trying to understand too is are they trying to build out their own AI system? I'm reading through this here. Can you help kind of fill in some gaps there? Or are they using off the shelf stuff like trunk tools to
This is classic Tyler.
build into?
He wants to do his homework in the episode and then ask questions to the other guests.
Hey, say what you will, Stephen. At least I'm honest about it, all right? I told you this is what you were getting by having me along, all right?
No, so my understanding is they are embedding people that have been kind of given an overarching kind of thesis of what to execute, not necessarily like an AI system. They're not building a tool. They are incorporating themselves into tool.
Over top, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're building skills within Claude and Chat and basically GPTs within ChatGPT.
Yeah,
That's
I believe
And that's AI engineering how?
I think it's a little bit more than that. It's a little bit more than that.
That's
think
what I mean.
there's
It's what is that?
There's high level stuff of what these contractors are doing, and I think from a practical step, and I say this having just come from a GC recently to see what the process looks like, right? So let's say, for example, on one of these jobs or markets, you have a certain process that you do during project startup, right? So you know what you're doing, you know what's expected of you, of a superintendent, project manager, project engineer, whatever it may be. You need to, number one, figure out what all those steps are, what are the actual processes that you're trying to accomplish, determine what systems you use in order to accomplish them and what your desired state is. And then from there, you can start to try to think about what makes sense from a human perspective of what to do, what makes sense from an AI perspective of what to do, what is the necessary context. And then once you figure out what's necessary, it's probably similar to what you do, Tyler, on a day-to-day. But then eventually you can start to connect some of these systems, and then eventually you can start to figure out where's the real value to be deployed. Because one of the examples they gave is average submittal review took 10 days, and now they took it down to 2.5. It's okay, if you're trying to figure out where the bottlenecks in reviewing some of those submittals, is it just looking at the text? Is it cross-referencing against the specs? Is it calling the subcontractor to try to get more information? What are those individual things that actually need to be accomplished? And then you could actually But I think your second point of where is the AI in this? That part's a bit of a question mark. But I think without actually appreciating what are the individual steps these people are taking, you have to do so much task and data mining in order to actually apply AI to this. That alone, on top of the change management, is a hard part. It's not even the actual application of AI.
And here's what I'll say from a software
example.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of construction's forward deployed engineer instance, right?
It is. Yes.
It's someone embedding themselves into the ecosystem that is project life, and then building some stuff.
Here's what I would say is that not every solution needs to be an AI solution. I'm sorry. Like, and
Agreed.
that's
Yeah.
where people are just completely blinded right now. They're like, oh, we're going to throw AI at it. We're going to use Claude and ChatGPT. And it's just like, okay, great. You're burning tokens for what? Like, the reality is you're not just using the tools that you have correctly. Like, I found an instance the other day, writing a case study on this, where a client of mine, they didn't have one tool talking to another tool using the connector that was available to them. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is out of the box stuff, and they didn't configure it right. And they are at 100%. They are looking for capacity. They were burning one person. I calculated out there was like 600K in lost revenue potential from that one person because they weren't configuring the tool right. It's not an AI problem. That's a process problem. And so I think a lot of times people are going to start just chucking AI at problems, thinking it's going to solve it for them, instead of taking a step back and thinking, why? Why do I need
100%.
AI here? Am I using the tool right? Is the process something that actually works? Because if I throw AI at a crappy process, I'm getting crap faster. This is age-old wisdom, and it's more relevant now than it has ever been. So reading this story, okay, I can chew through a lot of different things. If you're just getting AI engineers going out there and building Claude skills and GPTs, congratulations. But at the same time, like, are we just deploying skills out there to speed up a crappy process, or are we actually fixing the process? So if they don't have control of some of these other things, like making this talk to that, or even propping up a new database that can help me capture data, I don't know, man. Like, this leaves more questions than actual answers for me, and I need to, frankly, I do need to dig into it some more, but that's kind of where my mind immediately goes.
Yeah, I think
It's showboating.
It's an interesting take. I mean, I want to reflect on the funny memes that could be created of an AI engineer walking into a superintendent's office for the first time. Like, that would be a funny interaction. But yeah, I think, AJ, where does your head go from the tech side of this, seeing GCs start to embed their own people kind of with that title and maybe flexibility around what they build?
Well, here's what I like about it, is they're putting them where the work's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like we talked about earlier, the people who don't have any context to what actually is going on the job site. And Suffolk has gone out there and they put the people at the project. That's what I really like about this. But I do see a couple of risks. Number one, when you put the people at the projects obviously don't do things the same way, right? No two projects have ever done something the exact same way. And so you're going to get some pushback or some fighting or of what is the Suffolk way. Or maybe that's their goal. Like they wanted to forward deploy these folks so that there isn't one standard way, but it's just the way that the project needs it to work. I'm not sure. But the second thing is I thought of when I was reading this is at what cost, right? Like these AI engineers can't be cheap. And you're forward deploying them on a number of projects. Tyler, you talked about the cost of the software earlier.
No.
Like building it yourself and deploying that many resources at that kind of value, that's a different ROI equation. And man, it sounds expensive. Like it sounds really expensive, even though, you got control of it. At what cost? Like, are you truly going to get that kind of ROI because you're doing it yourself,
Discipline is so important right now, man. Like, to that point, you have to be disciplined, because are the AI engineers going in there and just saying, well, AI will solve this problem and this problem and this problem, instead of asking, again, why is it a problem that AI should solve, instead of it just being a process engineering issue that we just take the step out completely and we never have to do it again? And people are losing their heads over this stuff. So, and you're right, that ain't cheap. That is a very expensive
I disagree
person
a little
deploy
bit.
out there.
I disagree a little
Bring
bit.
it.
We talked earlier, like this is at some point, like this is a little bit of the R&D. Like you have to go figure out what works and what doesn't. And like I think we talk about ROI a lot, and like by all means you have to justify some of these things, but at some point R&D is a sunk cost. Like you're just trying to figure out what works on your job, and this could be their attempt to do it. And obviously John Fish and Suffolk and the exec team there is all in on trying to figure out what does the future look like, right? So they have the future job trailers and what does the project look like. And I would chalk this up to an R&D cost. I wouldn't even think about it as like, if they get something out of it, then great, it'll really work. But I wouldn't, it'll be expensive, it'll be a lesson learned, but I wouldn't chalk too much up to this.
I mean, I also agree. I think it's interesting to hear you have that perspective, Tyler, because I also think you, of all people, have benefited from investing in learning about how to integrate AI into your daily workflow, right? And so when you think about project life, I'd sometimes just think about like if I had what I have now at the project level, just like how much easier my job would be and how much more effective my team would be. And so I think there is an opportunity to, yes, learn, Victor, but also I think like the 0 to 60 on value is not that hard to imagine when you bring someone with some level of competence and leadership. And Suffolk runs a tight ship, and so I imagine there's some overarching kind of leadership structure that's providing some direction to navigate the project level variability. And assuming that is the case, I'm pretty bullish on this. I'd invest in this if it was an idea that I could.
Yeah. Okay, I will say I can agree with that. If it's an R&D, huh?
It's
What?
like you've been shot down by everyone. Your take is great.
Okay. I am extremely bullish on AI. Don't get me wrong. I've built a lot of my career on that up until this point. Now, one thing I'll say is the further I go with it, the more and more I experience the limitations with AI and the things that we're having to patch around. And so now I'm starting to realize we cannot skip foundations. All right. It's like if we're just building up here and building all these AI systems without focusing on the foundational layer, it's going to come crashing down and it's going to hurt. So whenever I first started using AI, I was trying to do literally every single thing with AI. Everything. And I'm burning a lot of time trying to do it versus just coding a script to do the thing every time the same way. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be some judgment in there in this. And so, yeah, great. If it's R&D, amazing. I love that. Go out and figure it out. But also, I think the CEOs of these companies need to go out and experience this for themselves before they just start making these sweeping mandates of like, AI. But here's the thing, is you're going to start getting $300,000 token bills, and you're not going to be able to track any sort of verifiable return on that investment. In what world is that ever acceptable? It's never been acceptable up until this point.
Well, I think you're a bit of a future voice, maybe a prophet even, I would say, around some of this stuff, which is, because I think, to give you credit, you're right, which is the front end of value when you invest in AI, even personally, is like tremendous upside.
It's huge.
And then when you try and create repeat out of that, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't create the folder structure. I didn't use the MD files in the right way. So there is like I don't know, maybe the law of diminishing.
I just disagree. I got to be honest. I disagree so much. I agree with a little bit. I got to disagree. I think like going back to the example for Suffolk, I don't know how much headcount they have for this, but if you just imagine there's like 5 people there that they're hiring, 200 like K a head. So that's $1 million bucks. Double that for like travel and expenses or whatever. That's $2 million. If they find any sort of operational efficiency across the $5 billion that they do, that's 100% worth it. You'll do that trade every single day. So might as well just scale it up to 10 people. Okay. So you know what I mean? So like one, I will double down on my R&D spend. I think as far as like the limitations of AI, I think part of that is you have to get them out into the field. To AJ's point, like you have to go to where the work is and send these people out there to go figure out what exactly works. Yeah. Like the 300K bill is that part is scary. I don't know anyone that would disagree with that. But I think like the idea that you can't, it'll be hard to attribute ROI to AI spend if you're just doing it at the individual level, because you still have to pay for that person to be on site. If you have a PM that's using AI to like review submittals or get their change orders done faster, you still pay for that person. If you're doing it at the organization level and now you're saying, now I can redeploy this person to 3 more jobs because of AI, it's much easier to see that ROI. Mm. And so then the question is like, how are you actually deploying it or how are you actually using it? It has to be a very intentional decision.
Victor, do you like Toyota Production System? Have you been a fan of that at all, or have you heard about it? And I'm sure you've heard about it. But
Yeah.
Okay, do you believe in that methodology?
I think it works for them. I don't think you can use it everywhere.
Okay, so that's fair, but also like if you are trying to be lean in your operations, that means you have to ask the question whether or not it's worth even having something in your operation. And so my concern would be in a situation like this, great, we're putting engineers on it. What do engineers do? They engineer. They don't ask why. And so if we're engineering a problem and we're getting it to compound over and over and over again, great. Like we might save $2 million here, but you might have also recreated a $50 million problem every year. So there's some caution that has to be taken with this.
Sure.
I'm red pilled. Don't get me wrong. Like I believe in it, and I'm very much invested in the future of how this looks. But I do think that we have to be willing to delete things. And I don't think we're in that phase of deletion right now. We're in this phase of creation. And so it's so easy to create mounds and mounds and mounds of data and information that nobody freaking understands. Yeah. And we're not taking the time to delete. So I'm worried we're just going to be ended up in this trash heap of data and infrastructure that we don't understand. So there has to be some rules to the game here in order to, I say rules, we have to have some basic understanding of what we're trying to achieve first. So agree. And, I think just adding to, it's just get refined on what the crap you're solving. Otherwise, you're amplifying problems in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. It also speaks to the importance of that forward deployed kind of AI engineer in terms of their seniority, their understanding of the domain, right? It's a very personnel, it's a big personnel variable, right? It's like the quality of the individual really matters. If you're one of these AI engineers at Suffolk listening to this, contact me. We'd love to have you on the podcast and talk about whether or not you're valuable. Well, we'll structure it a little differently. But okay, so that's
defend your job.
All right, so we had Dodge and Construct Connect disagree on June starts. So Dodge referenced that June starts in terms of kind of new projects starting up was down 20%. That's right, that was July 21st. July 27th, Construct Connect comes out that June non-residential starts were at an all-time record, up 32%. So same month, same country, kind of big delta between the two. Let's put out maybe some anecdotal feelers. Where is the industry at? What would we think? Is it growing? Is it contracting? What are we seeing? Tyler, you're kind of interacting with contractors. You getting a sense of new jobs increasing, getting delayed?
Blowing up. It's like people can't keep up right now. It's so much happening. So many projects happening. So I think, looking at that, how long can it be sustained and will it be sustained?
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, blowing up is kind of short and sweet.
AJ, I don't know your new role well enough, but I think there's like field in the title in sub-level, right? Are you obviously you're fairly new in this new role, but what are you seeing from your vantage point?
Same as Tyler said. Too much work, not enough people. It is definitely exploding. Every time I see a headline that says construction starts are down, I instantly try to go figure out where. Like that's the data point that I'm searching for in that particular article, because it sure doesn't feel like it anywhere. Even with the pauses on data centers happening in different locations, it does not feel like construction's slowing down. All the big GCs have record backlogs, right? The earnings reports have all been incredibly strong. It's really interesting to see one say down. I mean, it's silly enough that they disagree, number one, but to have one of them say down is odd.
Yeah. So Dodge was down, and I don't know what we do with that. I don't trust either of them inherently. But Victor, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have much. From my perspective, it's clear that the data center market is just absolutely ripping. Anything in data center energy world, like that's always going to be ripping, at least anytime soon. I think hospital systems meds are pretty stable. Depends on like what part of the country you're in, of course. But some of the things I've seen, like residential, slower in some areas, stronger in the south. It just depends on like what down really means. So similar to Asia, you got to check where, and then also by which market. So I don't know. I will tell you, similar, like I live in Ohio. There's a ton of data center work out here. There's a ton of manufacturing work. There's literally everything. Everything is going up. No one can find the help. Like it's boomtown. So I don't. My personal anecdote is that that's not true on the ground, but I'm sure somewhere it is true.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Are they just making this based off of their own data and seeing what they see from their vantage point? So it makes me wonder if the mixture of jobs that are flowing through those two systems are different. Right. So like Construct Connect is getting more data center driven work. Dodge might still get some, yes, but not as much.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's the reason for the disconnect on the data.
Data
I
center.
mean, but like Dulles
Yeah,
just
maybe.
announced a $20 billion program. Like that's not data center, and that's
true.
billion with a B. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking big numbers in all sorts of industries.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, we're almost out of time. Maybe we'll do lightning round on what do you think is going to be the next big acquisition before the end of the year? Let's start with, I feel like Victor, you're like, oh, well, is it, you could name off like 4. Why don't you just start? What's
Oh man, we're talking the company that will be acquired, right? Not the company that will be acquired.
There's too many companies in construction tech, but
There's a lot of good ones out there. Can I go last?
yeah, you go.
All right, I'll go last.
I can't even think of one. This question surprised me. AJ, who else are you gonna buy? AJ?
Well, so yeah, I was gonna try to abstain from this one just to
Yeah, that's
protect
fair.
myself. I know that the market's still very active.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. The rumor mill is rolling on a lot of places. The market's still very active. There's gonna be at least 1, maybe 2 more major acquisitions. I don't know if we'll be a player or not. I'm like I said, week 4. Like I have no purview into that whatsoever. But I'm connected enough at conferences that you know who's up for sale right now. Yep.
My take is, I think one of the emerging scheduling planning platforms is going to go soon. I think I think there's been too much time in between, and it's time that Oracle gets a true challenger. And I could see one of the big boys adding a planning element to their suite, thinking through data from a planning standpoint and how it's going to inform scenario planning and like the orchestration layer down the road.
I could see AJ over there typing, just being like, quick, acquire outbuild right now, go! 3, 2, 1, go!
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Stephen. I think if you go through the list of all the big guys in the construction space, right, like the pre-con side is probably one of the weakest if you go down through the list. So scheduling and estimating are definitely interesting. So Planera and Outbuild. I would honestly throw out ClearStory out there. I think that'll be a pretty smart acquisition by someone. Universally loved, pretty good revenue. It's hard to disagree with that kind of acquisition. It's a matter of like whether or not Cameron wants to sell the business, but ClearStory I think would be a pretty interesting one.
But yes,
I think Bridget is also pretty good. I think there's a lot in the financial space where a lot of people want to do financial management, either in the back office or like billing on monthly billing. If you talk to anyone that does monthly billing on the project level, it sucks. Like everything around that sucks. And so if you could buy something around there, that would be smart. I don't know. If I have to choose one, I would say ClearStory, but I like the category you said, Tyler. I think scheduling is a pretty smart one to do because P6 sucks, man.
Tyler, that was me, Victor. Give me.
Oh, sorry. All right. Well, never mind.
I was just gonna take the compliment and be like,
Tyler, what you got?
I'm gonna Babe Ruth this thing just for the heck of it. I'm gonna Babe Ruth it just for the fun of it. All right, I'm gonna call my shot completely here. I think Trunk Tools will be acquired by a construction company.
Interesting.
I think that makes some sense. Maybe. I don't know. In the past 3 minutes that I've had to think about it, it feels like it makes sense. So
I wish we had 20 more minutes. I wish we had
You
more
can take
time
that
for
to the
segment.
bank. Start just cutting checks right now, everybody.
I mean, I do think though, like back to our like ontology, knowledge graph, like data autonomy conversation. We had the little, I don't know what you call it, like a little bit of a conflict in the industry between Procore's updating of its API terms and conditions and Trunk Tools not being allowed to participate in the marketplace, and how that might have been an indication that, like, I don't know, is Trunk Tools positioning itself to be another alternative if you want to be more self-sufficient? I don't know.
I think that's the only place that Trunk Tools can go right now. Is I don't know if any of the bigger companies like a Autodesk Construction Cloud has any use of keeping a Procore, or not Procore, a Trunk Tools around for any duration of time, because all it's doing is just scraping data. And also, I think that construction companies have a benefit of creating their own ontology. And so I think that a bigger construction company will absorb Trunk Tools in order to build their own ontology and their own agents within their company, because they've already got a pretty decent jump start on it, personally.
Maybe a hot take. I like that one. Well, we're out of time. I think that's a good place to end. That's the review as noted for July. AJ, Tyler, Victor, thanks for joining, guys.
Thank you.
Always happy to be here.